And out of curiosity, how many of you here are familiar with me and my YouTube channel? Okay. I was expecting like 3 hands to go up, so that's awesome. So all of you should know what I'm probably going to do right now. It's probably going to, so strap yourself in. There's going to be a lot of information really quick, but I'll bang through this really fast, and then we can have a Q&A at the end. So for those of you, the few of you that don't seem to know who I am, I'm Matt Farrell. I'm a user interface and experience designer by trade. I've been doing that for over 20 years now, and I've always had a fascination with how technology works. I like to understand the how and the why it all comes together. You can just ask my mom. She can tell you a funny little story. That's me at 4 years old. I have vivid memories of being on the family room floor, taking her egg timer apart, taking the bell off, taking all the gears and little springs, and putting them methodically in front of me on the floor because I want to understand how it worked. And so, as you can imagine, with all of that across the floor, my mom coming in and finding me, it did not go over very well. I was 4 years old and couldn't put it back together. So the main focus of my channel is around sustainable and smart technologies like electric vehicles, renewable energy, and smart homes. So it's those last two I'm focusing on today. And no matter what your motivations are, whether it's combating climate change or saving money, or both, there are some really amazing things you can do with smart homes to pull that all together. And I've got 5 areas that I recommend that you look into. So the number one, and this is for every person in this room that owns a home, number one thing you should do is get a professional home energy audit. And depending on where you live, this may cost a few $100, but if you follow through on the recommendations, it will pay for itself in no time flat. And depending on where you live, you may also have programs that can help you out. Now, I'm from Massachusetts, which has a program called Mass Save, and we can actually get a free assessment every year to see how our house is. And some of the things that they'll do is they'll check the insulation level in your attic, in your exterior walls, and in my case, they actually went into like a closet and drilled holes to see how good the insulation was. And then they'll even repair the holes before they left, so no damage done. They'll also perform what's called a door blower test, and it's pretty much what it sounds like and looks like. They basically attach a gigantic fan to your front door, and they exhaust the air from your house, creating negative pressure, and they take a pressure reading. So they do this before and after any of the work you've had done is done, and it gives you kind of an apples to apples comparison, an actual number you can look at to see how good the changes were. Now, why is it important that we do this for our homes? Well, heating and cooling our homes is more than half of our energy use here in the United States every year. And making sure your home has a proper seal can really make a massive difference in how much energy you use and how much money you spend. So be sure to check what incentives and rebates are available in your state, because you'll find that they can really help do the upgrades that you're going to do. Now, when I had my audit done for Mass Save, they ended up covering about 75% of the costs of all the things I had done. And they blew additional insulation to the attic, they took the siding off my house, and they injected additional insulation to the walls, put it all back together, and they covered 75%. So the before and after for the door blower test for me, it showed a 33% improvement in my home seal. So it made a big difference on how much energy I was using. They also offer some pretty good rebates on things like high efficiency water heater systems, furnaces, and things like smart thermostats, which leads right into my number 2, which is looking to get in the smart thermostat. It ties right to the 50% energy use again. Now, I don't know how many of you remember these, okay? When I grew up, my grandparents lived in the same house for 50 years, and they had this in their house the entire time they had that house. And programmable thermostats have been around as long as I've been alive, and I never understood why they didn't upgrade that thing. But then again, I was the kid that took apart an egg timer, so. Okay, so programmable thermostats are a huge upgrade over that old style thermostat. Well, smart thermostats are a big upgrade over that. And the 2 big names in smart thermostats that you might know are Nest and Ecobee. There are a lot of other ones, but those are the 2 big ones that you can look at. And they typically cost around $100 to $200. And while that may sound like a lot, you'd be surprised how much energy they can save you every single year. And something like Nest uses machine learning to find patterns in how you like to heat and cool your home. It's like every time you adjust it, it learns like when you do it and why. And it's like having a little virtual butler inside the thermostat. It starts to anticipate your needs and make those changes for you ahead of you actually wanting to do it. And it even understands when you're not home and will adjust accordingly. Now, I have an ecobee, which is the one in the upper right. It's the big black one in the upper right. And it doesn't use machine learning in the same way as Nest, but what it does is it has these little white remote like thermostats that you put around different rooms in your home, and they also have motion sensors on them. So it detects which rooms are occupied and which ones aren't. And it takes the room's temperatures from the ones that are occupied and takes that average and will adjust your house accordingly for whatever rooms people are in to try to make sure that they're comfortable. And in addition to that, because it has the motion sensors, it knows when nobody's home, and it can flip into an away mode when the house is empty to save you even more money. Now, all of this comes together because the house can then make micro adjustments to what's happening in the house, because none of us live to a pre-programmed schedule. And ecobee has reported that 23% of their heating and cooling bills, you see a 23% decrease in your heating and cooling bill every year. And Nest did a study that showed 10 to 12% savings on heating and 15% savings on cooling, which works out to about $131 to $145 saved every single year. So if you paid $200 for an ecobee, in a year and a half, that will have paid for itself. Now, my third recommendation, what was that? Oh, sorry. My third recommendation is finding out exactly how you're using your energy. And that's using things like something like this. This is the cheapest, easiest way to go about this. It's called a kilowatt. You can pick it up for about $25 in Home Depot, Lowe's, Amazon. You can find it pretty much everywhere. And you just plug your devices into this, and it will show you exactly how much energy it's using at that moment. But if you leave it in over time, like 24 hours or a week, it'll show you what you used over that time, and it helps you track down devices that use more energy than you might think. Like a computer in sleep mode actually uses more power than you might think, so it might be better to turn off your computer. But you can step up in two different ways. And the first way is, and if you've watched my channel, you know I talk about smart homes a lot. So smart outlets and smart light switches, because a lot of these have energy metering built into them. So you just pull out the app and you can see exactly whatever's plugged into that outlet, what it's using at any given time over months or even a year to see what it's been doing and costing you. And I have some, not those exact ones, but I have smart outlets controlling things like dehumidifiers and space heaters, and it allows me to see exactly how much they're drawing. And it also has helped me adjust when they turn on and off to try to maximize not just our comfort, but our energy use. Now you could go full Monty here and get a whole home monitoring system. And there's a bunch of options for this. And these are kind of the two more common ones you might hear spoken about most often. It's Curb and Sense. And they get installed into your electrical box, and they allow you to see exactly how much energy your entire home is using at any given moment. And they can even show you how much you're using on a specific circuit or even specific devices within your home. Now, I'm using Sense, which is a relatively easy thing to install, but you can have an electrician do it for you for not that much money. It's a little orange box with a Wi-Fi antenna and two clamps that go around the mains that come into your home. And if you have solar, you can get two additional clamps, and you put those around the lines coming in from your solar panels. And at any time, I can see exactly how much energy my house is using and producing through my solar panels on my phone. And Sense uses machine learning to understand specific energy patterns. It's kind of nuts what it does. Just from those two clamps around your mains, it can start to identify things like refrigerators and microwaves and space heaters. It pretty much gets all of your major large appliances and even some smaller devices too. And it can take a few months for it to detect everything. And in fact, just recently it started detecting my Tesla Model 3. So they're constantly rolling out updates for what it can understand. Now, you can also set up things in these kind of systems. You can set goals, which allow you to track towards energy goals. And if you go beyond that goal or aren't meeting it, it'll let you know. And in fact, just a few weeks ago, it sent me an alert that I was 20% higher than normal energy use. And that my wife is laughing at me, but this is completely my fault. Our space heater in the basement, I had moved our smart home system around, and I had plugged our smart heater into a smart outlet and forgotten to set up that smart outlet for proper triggers. And it was just running 24 hours a day. So that was not good. Yeah, I know. Shame on me. But the Sense sent me that email, and immediately I was able to go and make the change and fix it. So saved my butt. Now, the fourth area I recommend looking into is smart appliances. Now, you can, basically smart devices in general, not just even appliances. But like I mentioned earlier, switches and outlets, you can build onto that with smart bulbs and other things. Now, if you're going to do this, you need to do in an intelligent way. You'll want to pick a platform, and there are tons of platforms out there. And my personal preference is Habitat. They do a really good job with security and privacy of your data, but whatever platform you pick with, just pick one and make sure every device that you buy is supported by that platform, and then they can coordinate with each other to really save you a lot of energy and money. Now, when my wife and I both leave home, my Habitat basically goes into away mode, and it tells my Ecobee to go into away mode. And then it also makes sure the front door locks are locked. It makes sure that the lights are all turned off. It makes sure the garage door is down, and it makes sure that space heater is turned off. Now, so it's just like what I mentioned earlier about the smart thermostat by itself, but it's extended out to pretty much everything in my home. And it's the automations you set up once that take care of everything. The house becomes aware of what it needs to do when, and you don't have to do anything yourself after that. And if you're like me and you have some decent but dumb appliances, like a high-efficiency dryer that we have, I'm not going to replace it, it works just fine. There are options to make some of these dumb appliances smart. And one example is what I have pictured here. It's called Smart Dry. And it's a little white box that you can see in that picture that's about the size of a pack of gum. And it's got very strong magnets, and you just slap it into the drum of the dryer, and it detects temperature, humidity, and motion. And so anytime you run the dryer, it kicks into gear, and when you set it up in the app, you tell it how dry you like your clothes. And so you get an alert on your phone saying, hey, your laundry's done. And I found in my testing, I was able to stop my dryer about 10 to 15 minutes earlier than the dryer thought it could stop. And you can imagine a dryer is a huge energy sink, so this saves a lot of money. And washers and dryers account for about 13% of our energy use every year. So this is another simple, cheap way to go about making improvements. Now, this one, if you've watched my channel, you know this is my absolute favorite one. But I put it last because the other ones are in priority order. I would say like low-hanging fruit, start with the energy audit and work your way down, because this is a huge investment. It may not work in every specific situation, but that's why I put it at number 5. But there's something so cool about having a power plant strapped to your roof. I mean, you can't get any cooler than that. Now, I've gone into extensive detail in my videos about how much it cost me and how much I've gotten back and all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in like the data, which I typically do in my videos, I recommend watching my solar panel videos. I'm not going to go into that detail here, so don't worry. My main message is that you'd be surprised where solar can actually work. It's not just a viable option for someplace like here in Texas, California, or Florida. It can work in the Massachusetts area. It can work in the Great White North up in Canada. So now in Texas, you'd probably be able to get a setup that can cover nearly 100% of your use year-round. And in Boston, that's not going to happen in the wintertime. But over the course of the year, you can get a huge return. Now, ideally, you want a house that has a southern-facing roof or a plot of land that you can build your solar array. My house, not very ideal. So my house faces east to west, so I don't have a good location. It's a very tiny house. I don't have a good yard to build out an array, so I had to deal with that. Next thing is you don't want shade. That's obvious, because you want to soak up as much sun as you can. And again, I don't have an ideal situation here. I have neighbors with really tall trees in the backyard that mid-afternoon into the late afternoon, they start casting shade across the back of my house. I don't think my neighbors would like me going down, cutting down their trees. But here's the thing. So solar panel efficiency has gotten really, really good. And I installed panels on both sides of my roof. And I went with the highest efficiency panels I could find, and I put them on both sides of my roof to capture not just the morning sun, but as much into the afternoon as I possibly could. And in the end, I'm getting about, as you can see, 65% of our yearly energy use from a less than ideal situation. So it's definitely working out for me. Now the system will have paid for itself in about 8 to 9 years, which sounds like an incredibly long time, but you have to remember these LG panels I've got have a 25-year warranty, and they're guaranteed to have about 87% efficiency at 25 years. So these are going to last a very long time. Now, does this mean it will work for you? And that's the big question, and that's hard to answer because it's very, very specific. But I think you'd be surprised, and it's absolutely worth looking into. And if you're interested, there are 2 things I always recommend on my channel for people to use. The first one is run by Google. It's Project Sunroof. It's a really simple program. You just go to the website, you plug in your address, and it will give you kind of a quick snapshot as to what it thinks that you might be able to do in your location. And then the second one is Energy Sage, which I actually used to find my solar installer. I didn't use Tesla, so no booze, but I used Energy Sage, found a great installer. They did a great job, exactly what I wanted, and it was a fantastic experience. So I ended up partnering with Energy Sage on my YouTube channel. So I actually am an affiliate of them. So I might be a little biased, but I actually love them. Great free resource, even if you don't use their installers. Great resource for finding out about panel reviews, microinverters, all the stuff that goes into it. So you can kind of educate yourself before you go out. Now, to kind of wrap things up, before we get to the Q&A, the first 4 recommendations that I had are about cutting your energy use back. And then the 5th one is obviously about generating as much power as you can. And you put those 2 things together and they meet in the middle, you can become truly energy efficient. And that's the thing that I hope you take away from this. As well as smart homes not just being about silly parlor tricks. Like you see those commercials where you pull out your phone and the lights blink red and purple and do crazy stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. It's stuff about saving you energy, time, and money in the long run. So let's get to the Q&A, and if anybody has any questions or thoughts, chime in.
What are you afraid people might be using their data for?
For smart, that is something you really need to go in with your eyes open. Some places, like if you've seen any of my videos, I moved away from Amazon for that reason. I did not like their privacy policies. They've had a lot of issues, so I moved away from them. You need to look at the terms and conditions. Look exactly how they're using your data and storing your data. But part of the reason I moved to Habitat was it's completely self-sufficient. It's mine, it's in my house, the data never leaves my house. And so I'm in complete control of it. And it's up to me if I want to open it up to something like Google and let them get access to it. So my recommendation is always go private first and open it up if you are comfortable with the companies that you're dealing with.
If you're building a new house, is there any energy standards to look out for? And we're particularly looking at prefab homes.
That's a really good question. I don't have a really good answer for that, but there are. Yeah, I definitely recommend looking at your like local state. Probably has programs and things that you can look into for energy efficiency. Like the Mass Save program has stuff around that exact type of thing. So I would definitely look at that.
I would also say the LEED standards are good.
Yeah.
And looking into passive houses is also.
Yes, passive houses. Yes.
So do you trust Google? Do you let Google get your info?
I actually just had a big long conversation with Chris. I don't know if he's in the room, but hey Chris. I had a big conversation with him last night about this. I do trust them to a certain extent with some of my data. I do not trust them with everything.
That's exactly where I'm at.
Yeah, I've limited exactly what services I use and how I use them because I don't trust them with all of my data anymore. Anybody else?
Getting back to the new house deal.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be building a house very soon, and I haven't done all the homework to see what kind of a system I'll need. I'm just learning now about how it's priced and how it works. But the question I have is, if you were building your house new, what would you put in it? If you were really not sure, I mean, do you put pipes in certain places for wires, or is that all not don't worry about it and just build a house?
No, I would plan ahead if I could. Like when I moved into my little tiny house, one of the first things I did was got an electrician to help me like string wires and cables and everything through my house because it was built in the 50s. Yes. And it was difficult to get stuff laid down in certain areas of the house. So if you're building a house, I would definitely plan ahead and think about what systems you want to put in place.
Yeah, like if you're going to have a Tesla thing in your garage,
correct.
So should you put a pipe in? And,
yeah.
I mean, this kind of thing.
Yeah, if you laid like conduit down or some
way to put conduit.
That would be the smart path because it would be laying the groundwork for an electrician later to come in.
That's not really too costly.
No, it would be cheap to do that.
Sorry, so further expanding on that, what are the types of people that we should seek out? Like, would an electrician be like a specialized electrician for eco-friendly? that we should seek out advice? If you don't know,
I don't know. You'd probably have to find very specialized people, because some of the people I've dealt with would not know where to start with that. So you're gonna have to do your homework and find that. Yeah.
Why undecided?
I was waiting for that. Yeah, there's two stories to that. One is undecided kind of represents kind of like what the viewers are feeling like. Because when I go to YouTube to watch videos on a review of a product, I haven't made up my mind about that product. I'm watching these reviews to help make a decision. So it's not I'm undecided. It's kind of like you're all undecided. I'm trying to help you out if I can.
Do you have battery storage at home?
Not yet. But the second thing to undecided was I couldn't come up with a name for my channel, and my wife made the joke of, you should just call it Undecided. So you can blame her for that.
Have you considered adding some sort of a storage solution to your solar panels and seeing how that works out?
Yes.
I know that Tesla and Generac now are making things.
Yeah, there's a bunch of good options, and I definitely want to do it. I earned a Tesla Powerwall through the referral program, and I want to get a second one with that one. It's just, there's a huge wait right now. It's like I've reached out to them several times, and they keep saying, we'll get to you later. So, yeah.
Hi, do you have any recommendations for retrofitting like a mid-20th century house in terms of, do you want it to be airtight and have super expensive R-value windows, or is there kind of a limit to how much I should drop into an old house before I'm kind of exceeding the break-even point?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to the cost. I mean, there's some great things that you can do with like taking siding off and actually putting up kind of foam board underneath the siding and putting the siding back up. That's a really great retrofit. You could go the more economical approach, which is what I did, which was you just had additional insulation blown in, and it had a significant impact. So it's like, I think there's great economical solutions that you can go with. I don't think you have to go with super crazy expensive stuff.
Two questions. I was wondering if I had the time to wait and I was building a new home, would it be worth waiting to get do you think it'd be worth waiting to get the Tesla glass solar roof rather than putting the solar panels up? I kind of feel like the solar panels are yesterday.
Yeah, I looked into the solar roof for my house out of curiosity when they released the new version, and if I had to get a new roof and solar panels, it would be slightly cheaper to go with Tesla's solar roof than to do it separately, because the system I got was very expensive. I had to get very high efficiency panels and it cost more. So for me personally, it would have worked out to go with Tesla. Of course, that didn't exist when I put mine on. So it depends on your situation. If you're building a house from scratch, I would strongly recommend looking into it.
Well, and that's my second question. I'm just in the process of thinking about buying a house built in the 20s and thinking about having it taken down, unfortunately. So I was wondering, have you ever dealt with any smart home architects? Because I thought to myself, well, I should hire a smart home architect, but I thought maybe that's like buying organic in that you just get to pay more.
Yeah, I would lean in that direction of it's probably not worth it. I think you can do a much better job yourself in cherry picking, because you know what you would want, like what you want your house to do, and you can do it very easily on your own today.
I don't have a question so much as advice, because I've sort of retrofitted my house. The most important thing you could do is actually hire an energy auditor, someone to do a HERS rating, and do the before, during, and after, and make sure people build your house tight. And you ventilate, right? It's another important thing. HRV or something equivalent. The new serve is really good. So that's the most important thing. I know friends that didn't follow my advice
and regretted it.
Regretted it hugely. Their house now is terrible, basically. And it could have been so much better.
That's really good advice. I hadn't thought about the during
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
So they'll test when the windows go in. They'll test everything, so it's tight.
You know right away before they moved on.
and you do it before the walls go up and the plasterboard.
Excellent advice.
Hi, so I'm thinking about smartening up my house a bit, but I'm also concerned about security. With hackers, there's so much
Yes.
talk about this. So I guess what I'd like to ask is, what have you done to harden up the security in your house, or are you just relying on the device's own security system?
I'm in kind of a middle ground stage at this point. I'm not as secure as I need to be. I have a guest network on my Wi-Fi setup, and I've put as much of my IoT onto that to try to segment it from my main stuff, so my computer isn't on the same network as my smart thermostat kind of a thing. But when you do that, it adds aggravations to using it. Sometimes your cell phone has to be on the same Wi-Fi as the devices, so you have to kind of work that out. But my recommendation would be to look at isolating things on a separate network if you want to be super secure. And don't buy cheap knockoff Chinese Wi-Fi, no hub required stuff. That stuff freaks me out, and I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, because you don't know. It's the little computers that you're putting in your house, and it's like adding everyone you put in is like another door, another vector for somebody to break into your home and hack it. So it's like you don't know what they're doing. So I tend to stay away from those.
What products are you running for your home networking?
For home networking, I said I moved away from Amazon, but this is the last Amazon product in my home. I'm using Eero from Mesh Wi-Fi Network. Before, I was a huge fan of them before they got bought by Amazon, and it's a fantastic router system, but I'd move on from them if I could, but it's a really good router.
What kind of smart home services do you think are least likely to become walled gardens?
Ooh. That's tough to answer, because I think they all want to be walled gardens, but just this last December, there was an exciting announcement with a chip standard where Apple, Google, Amazon, all these big companies have basically banded together and saying, we're making a centralized smart platform called chip. And so hopefully those walled gardens start to break down with chip if it becomes a real thing.
Matt, with so many devices connected via Wi-Fi, is there a problem, or how do you protect yourself from the fact that when there is a power outage, suddenly nothing in your house can be spoken to other than physically?
Battery backup. I have a battery.
Like a small UPS?
Yeah, you get a small UPS, you plug your routers into that, and power goes out, your Wi-Fi is still running, and all your stuff can still be talking. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Anything else? Sophie's running around like mad.
Yeah, I see you're recording, and is this going to go on your channel?
It will most likely go on my channel, if the audio is good. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, understood. And how much IoT do you use with your power for using for energy saving?
Pretty much everything in my house, I've gone kind of nuts, everything is tied into my smart home. Every light switch, every light, our furnace, everything. And so I would say probably about 60 to 70% of my smarts is impacting in a positive way my energy use. The other stuff is more just for convenience. Yeah.
Any thoughts about 802.11 versus Zigbee versus Z-Wave?
Oh, there you are. About what?
802.11 versus Zigbee versus Z-Wave when you're building your smart network?
Well, like I said before about not wanting to buy cheap knockoff like little Wi-Fi devices that require no hub, I prefer to have a hub because it's not on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I'm talking about
hub. Yeah, so I would go Zigbee and Z-Wave. Either one of those is pretty good. I tend to stay away from Wi-Fi devices.
When you have a topic for a video that you're that you want to make, what does the process for research look like for you?
Oh man, I do a lot of research. It usually starts with just looking into Google, finding some good data. I try to find as many like factual sources, not just people talking on a forum about something, and to spend a lot of time. It usually takes me a couple days to put stuff together, run the research for my videos. All right, we're out of time, so thank you very much, everybody.